So Donald Trump, in his impeachment inquiry, is using essentially the same kind of cover-up strategy that they used with Justice Beerbong back when Kavanaugh was before the Senate and Trump refused to release hundreds of thousands of pages of documents about Justice Beerbong when he worked for George W. Bush, being all gung-ho about torture and stuff. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. This is the second time we've seen the White House try to cover up documented evidence. And the last time was Justice Beerbong. Remember when Brett Kavanaugh was before the United States Senate after Anthony Kennedy, just to rewind a little bit, Anthony Kennedy's son worked at Deutsche Bank and signed off on apparently well over $1 billion worth of loans to Trump. And now, there's some substantial reporting suggesting that the reason Deutsche Bank felt comfortable to give these loans to Trump, even though he was so bankrupt, he had declared bankruptcy multiple times, he'd lost, his casinos and everything else. Not everything else, but, he'd lost a lot, and he was underwater, and literally no American bank would loan him money anymore. And that the only reason Deutsche Bank would do this was because they were being backstopped by a Russian bank. And this is why Trump is hiding his tax returns, et cetera, et cetera. So anyhow, Justice Beerbong was being nominated to replace Anthony Kavanaugh, Anthony Kennedy, whose son signed off on Trump's loans and who a few weeks earlier Trump had seen at an event and said, "Say hi to your boy for me." And then Kennedy decides to resign. Kennedy's in good health. He's fine. He's still walking around, doing low-key events and things. But Kennedy resigns, and in comes Justice Beerbong. And Justice Beerbong used to work in the Bush administration as a lawyer, and he apparently, this is, because all this stuff has been successfully covered up, he apparently was working on, on the torture memos, saying, yeah, it's fine, you want to torture people, no problem. Or at least that's what some have alleged and many have speculated. So there were hundreds of thousands of documents from Kavanaugh's time in the Bush White House during the war on Afghanistan and Iraq that the White House never released. They absolutely refused to release. And the Senate, the Democrats of the Senate were yelling and screaming about this, but Mitch McConnell would not allow this stuff out. And they successfully covered that up, and now we have Justice Beerbong instead of just, Judge Beerbong. So now we learn that Bolton turned the manuscript for his book over to the White House on December 30th. Now, December 30th is, 3 weeks ago? 4 weeks ago? This was a month ago. He turned this thing over to the White House to vet it. And Trump this morning said, well, I haven't seen it. Right. I believe he hadn't read it because he doesn't read books. It's one of the things that apparently endears him to his base. But it raises the question, if the White House has known for a month that this was coming out, and the White House has known he was going to reveal that as late as August, that Trump was still trying to withhold aid to Ukraine, when it was in August when they, when it came out that they were looking into Joe and Hunter Biden. So A, is he going to be able to pull this off? Are we going to see Republicans peel off? And B, like he did with Justice Beerbong. He actually successfully covered up Kavanaugh's crimes in the Bush administration. Is he going to be able to cover up his own crimes? I don't know. The pressure's building, but I saw 2 Republican senators on TV this morning saying this doesn't change anything. We've already heard these allegations. And we also know apparently from Bolton's book, from the New York Times reporting on Bolton's book, and they've seen it, was that the senior national security officials in the Trump administration, possibly including Bill Barr and Mike Pompeo, thought Trump was making a mistake by withholding this aid, that it was illegal. But they're going to cover his butt, right? So, you know, is he going to be able to pull this off? And what did Moscow Mitch know, and when did he know it? Right? I mean, you know, it was December 30th was the day that Bolton's book went to the White House. 2 weeks later, to the day, Mitch McConnell on Fox News told Sean Hannity, quote, "Everything I do during this, I'm coordinating with the White House counsel." Did the White House lawyers know about this? If so, have they perjured themselves? Or, you know, are they exempt from perjury? I mean, if a lawyer knows that his client is guilty and says that his client is not guilty, does that perjure? I don't know enough about the intricacies of what lawyers can and cannot do. I believe that that's not perjury, but I don't know. Meanwhile, Jennifer Rogers is tweeting. I think this is fascinating. Trump tweeted this morning, "I never told John Bolton that the aid to Ukraine was tied to investigations into Democrats, including the Bidens." He explicitly denies it. But he's at the same time saying, "I'm not going to tell you because that's executive privilege. My conversations with Bolton are privileged." Well, Jennifer Rogers is tweeting, "Publicly engaging in the content of these conversations waives your right to claim privilege because you've already talked about them in public."